Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete, your esteemed host and colleague. Happy Monday to everybody. Guess what time it is? It's time to do another responding to the comments, live comments. So if this is your first time here for one of these videos, every once in a while, I think I'm doing it like maybe once a month at this point. I just go right into my desktop YouTube creator app and read some comments from the most recent on down. So this way I'm not cherry picking comments to make fun of or whatever. Now I won't read every single comment, especially if it's just a repeat of something somebody else said, or sometimes people are commenting and saying things that like, hey, love your show, stuff like that. So I'm not going to waste time reading every single comment, but the interesting ones I'll stop on if I can. So let's go ahead and get started. Time to hurt some people's feelings this morning. All right. Here we are. So as you can see, I'm just in my YouTube desktop app. Now, the only problem with this, the way that you're looking at it here, is that since it's an app on my computer, it won't let me zoom in like you can on a regular computer screen to make the text look bigger. So hopefully if you're looking at this on your computer, it's plenty big to see. If you're looking at it on your smartphone, I'm sorry if it's too small. I'm going to read them out loud anyway, so you don't have to necessarily read them with me. But all right, so let's just see here. This is the most recent comments. The ones on the top, obviously the newest ones, and so on and so forth. Okay? All right, let's start with this first one. Abdurauf Abdusua. I'm sure I mispronounced that. Clemson won 22 games in a row. That means Clemson's schedule was so easy and they played nobody. The ACC sucks and the entire college football sucks. What a way to start this off. Okay, so winning 22 games in a row. I don't know, somebody needs to get this guy a calculator. So there's 12 games in a regular season. There's a title game for your conference. Then there's multiple playoff games if you're undefeated like Clemson has been. And where you're playing top 4 teams. Right? So in that 22 games, according to Abdurauf Abdusa, Notre Dame and Alabama are nobody. And to cap that off, this guy says the ACC sucks and the entire college football sucks. Meanwhile, he's commenting on a college football YouTube channel. So clearly he's a fan of college football. Otherwise, how would he know they won 22 games in a row? How would he know anything about Clemson's schedule? How would he know that the ACC sucks? So what this guy is, I guarantee it, 100% chance. This guy is a fan of a football team that either sucks, number one, or number two, they can't beat Clemson or Alabama. That's who this guy is, 100%. Let's move on to the next one. I see old Tiger Nate there where I responded to him. And he basically said the same thing I just said. Biscoco, good work, Pete. Unfortunately, gonna be the playoffs before we can prove ourselves. Yeah, that's every year. Tiger Nation, damn, he misses the old videos. Yeah, so he must have found a really old one there. All right, here's another one here. This one looks kind of long, but I remember reading this comment yesterday, so I think it's worth reading again. This comes from Sven Kreuzberg. Now, look, this guy seems like a nice enough guy. I don't think he's even trying to troll me in this comment here. So I'm not going to destroy the guy. At least I don't mean to. This is not coming from a place of being mean, whatever I say back to this comment. But it's a ridiculous comment. So it is what it is. I hope you don't get your feelings hurt. Listen, you left a public comment, and I appreciate you watching, and I appreciate the comment. But it's a crazy comment. So he says, "Aloha, Pete. Serious? Lawrence isn't even a top 50 quarterback this season." This is the first sentence. This one's gonna take a little while. Lawrence isn't even a top 50 quarterback this season. He is horrible, god-awful, and light years behind where he was last season. With this quarterback, Clemson will not win a playoff game. Okay, before I go any further, I got to start with these first few. We're going to have to break this down into sections. Lawrence isn't a top 50 quarterback. You got to be kidding me, sir. I mean, where'd you come up with that number 50? He's top 5. Name 45 quarterbacks better than Trevor Lawrence. I mean, that's a ridiculous statement. He is horrible, god awful. Okay, so listen. I don't know how long you've been watching Clemson, sir, but do you remember what 2016 looked like for Clemson? You know, there was a guy that played for Clemson at quarterback. His name was Deshaun Watson. Maybe you've heard of him. I don't know. Pretty good quarterback. Deshaun Watson threw 16 interceptions that season. As a matter of fact, through 7 games, he had the same amount of interceptions as Trevor Lawrence did. You know, Deshaun Watson ended up going to New York that year. I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence is going to be going to New York for the Heisman. I don't think he is. But Deshaun Watson did. Guess what else Deshaun Watson did that year? Throwing all those interceptions. That's right. He won himself a national championship. So if you equate just throwing a couple of bad interceptions with being a horrible quarterback who's god-awful, then I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I guess maybe if that's your opinion. Certainly not factual. It's an opinion and a bad one at that. ETN saved you the game. I don't believe how bad Trevor was. And don't laugh over the Badgers. So which video is he commenting on? Oh, the one I did after the Clemson game, where I was laughing at the Badgers for losing to something called Illinois. Don't laugh at the Badgers. You should have lost last week, and everybody knows that. I guess he's talking about the North Carolina game. I love when people say you should have lost. Is this football or is this the shoulda, coulda, woulda game? The difference between good teams and great teams is ones that find a way to win close games, not lose them. To Illinois. Oh, and by the way, just to set the record straight here, because I've heard a lot of this. He's not the only one saying this about, oh, you can't make fun of Wisconsin by losing to Illinois after what happened with North Carolina. North Carolina is a 10 times better football team and program than Illinois is. Period. You should have lost week. Is that Lawrence leads the ACC in interceptions? Yes, he does. You're right. I lose my words over this. What? Last year, he was without any question the best quarterback in all the NCAA. But this year, not good, not average, not bad. Horrible is the word we should use for him. So if you go back to the top here, up here at the top, he says, with this quarterback, Clemson will not win a playoff game. Then down here, a few sentences later, he says that last year, Trevor Lawrence was the best quarterback in the NCAA. So from January 9th, I think is when the championship game was played, in the same calendar year, from January till, middle October, end of October, he went from the best quarterback in the NCAA, winning national titles, to now he's not even a top 50 quarterback, and he's not good, not average, not bad, but horrible. That's what we're saying. This is, and I don't hate the kid or Clemson. My team is bad as it gets, and we'll never see a playoff game in the near future. It's Mississippi State, and yes, we lost to Tennessee. Clemson is going nowhere as long as Trevor Lawrence is stinking up the joint that bad. But he has it in him. Let's see what's coming. This is the most bipolar comment. He trashes him, says Clemson's terrible this year. Then he goes and says that he's the best thing ever last year, 10 months ago. Then he goes on and says that the Clemson's terrible again, that they won't never see a playoff game or win a playoff game as long as Trevor's playing like this. But then he goes on to say that Trevor is great again and he has it in him and we'll see what's going on. This is like a roller coaster ride of emotions. And as you can see, my response to that was just I laughed at him because I didn't know what to make of this comment. It was all over the place. And then he goes on to say, what am I laughing about? Do you really think that Trevor beats an Ohio State or Alabama with such horrible performances? Well, again, this is something that I have to repeat over and over again because I don't know. Maybe some of these people just come across one video and they don't watch all the videos because I've addressed this already. For all the people out there who are saying that Clemson's offense is terrible compared to last year's offense, it's not factual. The only difference is the interceptions. That's it. Everything else, yards per game, points per game, the defensive stats are better than last year's defense. Everything is better than last year's. Over 500 yards a game on average. Over 35 points scored on average. Winning these games by an average of like 25 points for the year. I mean, this is all the same as last year. You can't say the entire offense is taking a step back from last year when the offensive stats are better. What you can do, if you're really being objective and paying attention to what's going on, is say Trevor Lawrence is throwing more interceptions than he did last year. That's one stat. Trevor Lawrence is not the offense. He's the quarterback. So to answer your question, yes, I do. Because I think that this is the best defense in the country. And they're getting better. Okay. On to the next one. Thank you, Sven Kreuzberg, for the comment. I appreciate it. I hope I wasn't too hard on you. All right, so next one here, we got Glockman945. Now, Glockman945 likes to spend most of his afternoons, on the weekends in particular, commenting and commenting and commenting and commenting and commenting in the Pigskin Pete YouTube section. This guy's an Alabama fan, and if I were an Alabama fan not named Glockman945, I would probably distance myself from this guy because he's a total moron. He does not represent the Alabama fan base. He represents the very small, idiotic sector of that fan base. Real tough to dominate a bunch of unranked teams. Clemson plays how many ranked teams this season? 0, maybe 1. Up to date, right? They played as many ranked teams as you have up to now. And it's the same team too, Texas A&M. The only difference is Texas A&M was ranked like number 14 or 15. When we played them, they were ranked like number 24 or whatever when you played them. But it's the same team. You have as good of a win as we do. Congrats on beating up on high school teams. You know, that whole term high school teams has really got blown. I mean, but I'm not going to even go there. It's stupid. Meanwhile, Alabama plays 3 or 4 teams, of which 2 or 3 are top 10. Okay, great. So you better not lose them. And this, I'm going to stop responding to these "Who does Clemson play? Clemson plays nobody" comments, because there's really no. I mean, how can you argue with who's on somebody's schedule? They cannot control that. They schedule all Clemson does is go out and schedule 2 SEC teams on home and ways every year. One of them's an in-state rival, Clemson or South Carolina. And we go out and we've played Auburn 4 times this decade. We've played Georgia 2 times this decade. We've played Texas A&M 2 times this decade. We have Georgia on our schedule in the near future. I mean, what do you want Clemson to do? It's not their fault that Florida State fell off the map. It's just not. It's not their fault that South Carolina's been bad for the past few years. I mean, it's not their fault that Texas A&M stunk up the joint this year. So miss me with it. I don't care if Clemson plays Wofford 18 times in a row. That doesn't make him any less of a great football team. Period. You can watch them play football for 5 minutes and tell this is an elite football team. And if you don't think they're one of the best 4 football teams in America, then maybe football is not your sport. Maybe you should take up something else to view on Saturdays. I don't know, lacrosse, swimming, women's volleyball. And he goes on to talk about how bad the ACC is. That's his only... Listen, sir, you're not in... Alabama's not in the ACC. We waxed you 44-16. Get over it. I mean, it's been 10 months now. It's time for you to stop crying about the ACC. Just beat Clemson. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. And this is something... for some reason, I'm the only one, not only on the internet, okay? I'm the only one... on the internet, I'm the only one on social media. I'm the only one on YouTube. I'm the only one. Nobody on TV talks about this. I am literally the only guy in America who has been putting the truth out there about the ACC head-to-head versus the SEC. I've been doing it since I've been on YouTube. Falls on deaf ears. Nobody cares. Nobody's ever had an answer for it either. Well, this guy, he'll give me an answer for it right now. Since the beginning of 2014, which is a half of a decade, because the criticism is, well, how come, and he contradicts himself here. He'll go, well, how come you're going back 5 years and not 10? Because it doesn't fit your narrative. Well, I don't know. Is 5 years not long enough? It's a half of a decade. If you go, the further you go back, yes, the less the ACC is good against the SEC. But I think a 5-year sample is long enough. It's not just 1 year. It's not just 2. It's not just 3. It's not just 4. It's 5 freaking years. It's a half of a decade. And we're halfway through this season now, so it's 5.5 years. And then he'll go, oh, how about just go back 2 years? Because, you know, over the past 2 seasons, the SEC has a winning record against the ACC. So he wants me to go back further to fit his narrative. He wants me to go back only 2 years. He can't make up his friggin' mind what he wants me to do. But the bottom line is, over the past half of a decade, the SEC and the ACC teams have played each other like almost 70 times. 70! Not 10, not 12, 70. And they're 500 against the ACC. That is a fact that cannot be denied. Now, I don't come on here and pretend. Let me hold on a second here. I got to look at you in the face when I'm doing this, when I'm talking about this, because it's important. I don't come on here and pretend as if somehow the ACC is a better football conference than the SEC. I don't do that. I'm not totally a homer that much, so I can't see reality. I know what I'm looking at. I know the SEC is a better football conference than the ACC is. I know that. I can see it. I'm watching the football games. But if all you do on the internet, day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out, is talk about how crappy the ACC is and how you're the best conference and it's not even close, then stop lying to yourself about the record versus the ACC. If you're so much more dominant over the past half of a decade, you should be winning 80% of those games, 90% of those games, if you're dominant and they suck. But no, it's 50-50. Those two things cannot be both true. You can't be that dominant and only win 50% of your games over half of a decade. It's not possible. So stop pretending. I don't pretend. You should stop it too. You guys get their panties in such a wad because Clemson's great. They can't stand it. I mean, they have a meltdown. I don't even know what's better as a Clemson fan, winning national titles or watching these crybabies cry about how good they are. I think it's better watching these people have meltdowns about how Clemson good and try to find any way possible to make them where they're not good or not great. It's ridiculous. And it's really embarrassing, too. It's sad. Where was I at? Lost my place. See, I'm not going to. I just and then he's arguing with Tiger Nation in here, talking about tough words on the keyboard. Sir, that's exactly what you're doing, is being a keyboard warrior. Look how many comments you left. 8. This is all within an hour-long period. You left 15 comments. Oh, God. Here he is again. Good God, man. Blake Ellis says, I agree. Travis Etienne had 3 rushes for 70-plus yards, and they stopped running him. Pound the ball, and then burn them with play action. I agree. There's Jack Harrington. See, this is an Alabama fan that's a level-headed person and human. Says, dude, nice win for you guys, 7-0. And, he recognizes that a 45-10 win against a 4-2 football team on the road is a good win. He's not coming on here screaming about how the ACC is terrible and it doesn't matter if you win by 100, everybody sucks, blah, blah, blah. I mean, these people don't watch football. Jerome Collins, if people were straight talking, there's only about 2 or 3 teams that wouldn't trade their quarterback for Trevor and a second. Yeah, exactly. Including, well, I'm not gonna even go into that. Clemson is the champ till they're not. Of course, I don't think Trevor could even help Miami. Well, he could definitely help Miami, but it's a different story. Amidu Pro says, the funny thing about this is I agree. Imagine if Clemson actually had a real offensive coordinator like Dow at Venables with this talent. I mean, imagine Lincoln Riley with these players. Well, that's a good point. Yeah, I agree with that. Listen. I'm not a Tony Elliott hater by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think he's a terrible offensive coordinator, but he really does. And listen, everybody. It's being an offensive coordinator in college football, as far as keeping the fans happy, is virtually impossible because if you run the plays and the players don't execute the plays properly, then you're always coming back and saying, oh, they shouldn't have called that play. But when the play works, then you're a genius. So, I think that although I'm very critical of Tony Elliott's play calling, I think he's got it backwards. He likes to pass to set the run up, and I've always been a fan of running to set the pass up, especially with the play action. When you have a pro-style quarterback like Trevor Lawrence is, and you have an NFL running back in Travis Etienne, and an NFL, most NFL talent offensive line, then, maybe the RPOs should be tamped down a little bit, and let's just go up and line up and beat them with sheer NFL talent. But you know what? That's the reason I'm not a football coach. I'm just some, jerk off on YouTube. But this, I agree with this guy. Imagine what Lincoln Riley would do with the Clemson's talent. They would be unstoppable. Yeah. I agree with you on that. On most of that. Thank you for the comment. A steroid comment from Brosy Luis. The people think that those are funny still. Those went out of style a couple months ago. But hey, keep leaving the steroid comments. I guarantee you're a fan of a team that can't beat Alabama or is Alabama again. Aaron Short says, Trevor won't go in the draft before Tua. I mean, he sure will not, because Trevor's only a sophomore. So that's a factual statement. Pete, you said it, demanded it, and finally they heard you. Run the damn ball to set up the pass later. Yes, thank you, Kenneth. You're a genius, sir. And Scott Reams left a nice comment too. All right, guys, those were all really from one video, unfortunately. I mean, these videos could be a couple hours long if I went back even a week. And that was really just one day's worth of comments. So, hold on, let me get out of here. No, I'll do this officially, All right, guys, thank you for the comments. Most of you even though you disagree with me in the comments, I appreciate the comments. Most of you, I can actually see where you're coming from. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I don't think I'm right about everything. But there's some things, there's some comments that are just so potato level 15 off the charts that I am right about it. And that's maybe the point of this thing. Thank you. Thanks to all the people who left kind comments. Thank you all the people who left troll comments. Keep them coming. You guys are what makes this show go around. Have a great day. See you next time. Pigskin Pete is checking out.